This is episode 1 of the quarantine edition of the A to Z podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, at Akron Jackson, at Dre Knott on most of your favorite social media platforms. A to Z podcast.com, facebook.com/A to Z podcast. Our sponsors, as always, are Cleveland Scene, the Honeymoon Grill, and American Fireworks. We know what's going on. The Honeymoon Grill is ahead of the curve. They have allowed me to practice social distancing by already having online ordering and a drive-through window. Go support them. American Fireworks, they've been very good to us. They, like a lot of others, are a local-owned business. They're open 24/7 on AmericanFireworks.com. That's where you find the coupons. Or if you get in touch with them another way, they've been known to take care of you if you tell them A to Z sent you. So, guys, at the risk of getting too wordy or too preachy or whatever, we know what's going on. It's a lot. It's unprecedented. It's strange. If you're new here, thanks for coming. If you're not new here, we genuinely appreciate you coming back. We love that you're an engaged audience, that you're a family here, that we have conversations that carry over. We're two fat kids from Akron. We're clearly not doctors. We're not experts on anything except when we really want to be, need to be, right? And so we're going to try to laugh through this. We're going to try to talk about what relates to us in terms of sports and life and whatever's going on. If there's any good news, for a while, we're going to be more available to do some podcasts.
Yeah. I need to work. So y'all got some work for me. Give me that work because I'm going to need it. No, in all seriousness. And look, to parlay and go off of what Zach just said, he's absolutely right. This is one of who knows how many that we'll do. And to be honest, I look forward to it. Bring a little levity to life. And getting we said this on the Kobe podcast. Us doing the podcast sometimes is just as therapeutic, if not more, for us as it is for some others, just to be able to talk, just to be able to get it out. We appreciate that you guys are willing to come download, come listen to us, throw shit in the air and see what sticks and doesn't. And with us, it's the air, not the walls. If you listen, you'll know why. But I'll just go back, and I've never really done this, so I'll do it for the first time. I had fun on our last podcast when this whole issue came up. I obviously was not as educated or as aware of things that, here's the thing. Like Zach said it perfectly. We do not claim to be experts upon anything but eating and making fun of each other.
PhD.
Yeah, right. And you don't got paid $50 for that. Maybe I'll just throw things everywhere else tonight. I had a lot of fun last podcast. I wasn't, going at anybody. And at the end of the day, I hope people didn't take what I was saying as the word is bond about this whole virus. But I still stand by wash your ass and wash your hands.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, so there are important things in life here, and let's just get to one of them. As of 9 hours ago, the NFL passed the new CBA, so it won't be this year, but in 2021 or 22, there will be 17 games. So you, my friend, are going to have to deliver the remix to the 5 and 11 song.
Oh, snap. They working at me. Why is this so important and why is this happening right now? I get that. I mean, was this and I got to be honest, because this is the thing that's on all of our heads, Zach. How much does the coronavirus play into how quickly? This has just been one of the most odd NFL signing contracts, the 17th game. Oh, yeah, y'all can smoke weed now, even though you really could the whole time. You just had to be a stupid MFer to get caught.
Right.
It seems like it's hasty to me. And then, and I couldn't even read it. My head has been all over. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'll be all over in this podcast because that's just where I'm at mentally. I saw DeMorris, or however you say it, he put out something like right around midnight, right when they signed, and it was very long-winded. And it was probably because he's a lawyer. It was better than dropping news at 5 o'clock on a Friday. He dropped it at, I didn't even know what time it is because I've been in so many different places in so many time zones. But he dropped it at midnight on a Saturday night. It was like Saturday Night Live was on, and I'm like, why am I reading this tweet, and why is it in such small print? And it hit me this morning. It all came down like that because he didn't want me to understand or read it right then.
Well, that was the voting deadline, and he didn't want to put it out there until everything had been in, right?
I got you. Right.
And there are several awkward timelines here. And our understanding right now, as we record this 14 or so hours from the beginning of the legal tampering period, which if you followed this before in the NFL, you know is the beginning of free agency because it's just the doors open and they stay open, right?
I want you to keep going. I want you to keep going because I'm going to learn a little bit.
Yeah, so
I'm curious about a lot of NFL stuff. But let me ask you this real quick.
Okay.
Think about what you just said is open right now. That is the most backwards ass thing. That's like get to cheat on your wife before you marry her day. Like what's this period of time again?
Well, see, no, that's already goofy. And, you know, they added that because they knew it was going on, right? But, you know, you add in the CBA, the voting closes at midnight. It was going to take 12 hours or so for an independent firm to confirm how it was going to go. It ended up being very close. I think everyone expected it to be very close. You know, there was players clapping back who weren't happy. There were players saying to other players, how can 500 of you not vote? This is your league. This is your voice.
That is unbelievable.
You know, there was others saying, hey, I might have changed my vote given the circumstances, or if you wonder if the circumstances forced this to pass. But then you get into this window here, and the way we understand it right now is that the NFLPA demanded that this go on because they want their guys to get the money, and I get that. I tweeted this morning, and like you said, Dre, I don't even know when you got home, where all you been, how long it took, all that. So I basically said I can't believe that they'd have it, but I won't be shocked. And so as of this moment, all indications, including, you know, Adam Schefter and others saying that it's on and teams are prepared for it to be on and teams have been making moves all day, we're going to have NFL free agency. So to me, I get it that it's a welcome distraction. I get it from the Players Association perspective that they want these guys to get locked in. And even though you can say a little tone deaf with what's going on in the world, you know, the counter to that is that people who have real world problems aren't really going to sweat the quarterback or the safety getting $30 million either way. And
True.
I kind of get that. It just is really weird. And I'm of the understanding that there is no flying and no visiting. So what if X free agent signs for $40 million guaranteed and it's all done digitally and then fails his physical in 6 weeks and the contract is void? Like,
I mean, there's so much into all of
there's
that.
There's got to be something we don't know, right? Because
yeah. But yeah, and you know, before we get to gosh, I'm torn already because there's football stuff I want to talk about there, but there's this real life stuff there. Because on one hand, the tone deaf thing to me is extremely tone deaf, and on the other hand, you're absolutely right. We all have to place our priorities where our priorities are at. Most, and it's nice that most of us in life can use sports as that crutch when we turn everything else off. That you can just put yourselves into that. You can immerse yourself into the backup point guard for the Milwaukee Bucks. I personally, I haven't really paid attention to anything over the last 3-4 days, which is weird because I'm usually 100% the other way. So I guess how the news hit me after everything else I'd read, and this is partly on me. I'm not saying that everybody. It does come off as tone deaf, especially because, all right, I'll go to the football side of things. When I kind of groggily open my eyes and I don't know if it's AM or PM, and I see Tannehill and $91 million. I had a joke there that I was going to tell, but it's too early to be telling jokes like that. But I thought that I was in another dimension or world. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, they gave him how much guaranteed?
I think it's 62 guaranteed. 62 guaranteed for Ryan Tannehill.
Regardless, yeah. That's the equivalent. Oh, there's so many funny things I want to say, but you can't be mean right now. I was going to put down somebody on radio.
All right, well,
that's the equivalent of being like the most average person on radio ever and getting the most money ever. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, it is a supply and demand market. All right, I'm glad you brought him up first. Before I forget this, I want to do this. I'm going to throw these at you, and I want your answer, but I don't want you to give it too much thought because the answers really don't matter, okay?
Okay.
So before he signed for 62, a number that jumps off the TV screen or your computer screen or whatever it is that you see that, right? You're totally right about that.
Right.
Everybody at the Combine believed, to me, that the trading market for Andy Dalton would start at a 2. It might not come to that. You might give up a 3 and a 6. You might give up a 3 and a conditional something later or a 3 and a player. But
Dalton was a second-round pick, correct?
Yeah, he was a second-round pick 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 9 years ago. So let me ask
He's
you
worth
this.
more than that to me because he's played better than a second-round pick over 8 years.
But he's Andy Dalton, right? And he's had some moments. He's not won a playoff game. All right. Right now, for 2020, who do you want, Phillip Rivers or Andy Dalton?
Phillip Rivers, and I know he's going to turn. I think in the right situation, Phillip Rivers can win 12 games and lose you the AFC Championship game with a pick.
Do you want Phillip Rivers or Ryan Tannehill?
Phillip Rivers, because he can take me to the AFC Championship game and throw a pick.
Do you want Phillip Rivers or Ted Bridgewater?
Ooh, I still say I want Phillip Rivers, his 18 kids, and him throwing a pick in the AFC Championship.
Okay, do you want Andy Dalton or Ted Bridgewater?
That's a good one. You got to really believe in Teddy. I like Teddy, but I will say, in the right offense with the right running game, and you get the right players, and this is any quarterback, you can win with Andy Dalton.
Okay.
Can Andy Dalton win you a playoff game? I don't know. And that's where I think the problem comes in with the question you're asking. Same with Teddy.
Do you want Tannehill or Dalton?
Go ahead. Ask the question again.
You want Tannehill or Dalton?
It's even. I'll take Dalton.
Look,
it's the same though.
And I think if you, I think, look, I think these are all questions that are worthy of debate, right?
Right.
And with the money at stake, and we know how the importance of the position, I ask you these right now and ask you to not give much thought because you see how freaking important it is for the Cleveland Browns for Baker to be the right guy. Because if he's not, if a year or 2 years or 3 years from now you're back in this market, you look at what you're getting and what you're paying for.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No, that's a great point. Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, all right. Why don't you ask about Dak? Well, and I think there's something else that plays off all of it.
Well, no, listen, because I was just throwing those names to make that point. If we were really going to do this, and we can, because I don't got to be nowhere for 8 weeks.
And we might be doing this. Hey, Aaron Goldhammer, we know you listen to a lot of people's shit and you use it on your show. It's okay. We get it. It's a long day, long year. You use this one, everybody knows you just took it from us.
No, listen, I mean, Dak is, you know what, to me, when I remember first having this argument, and we didn't have this podcast then, at least in this format, when the Cowboys extended Romo, like in, 7, 8, 9 years ago, right? Because he had been around, he had been the guy, he had established himself, he was a great story, and he had got them to a certain point. But it was clear that he was not in the top tier. And then so many of these guys are close. And when you looked around at the league, and I think it was, Jerry, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago I did this chart where I did every team's record over a 4 or 5 year period, and like half of them had been 500 or better, right? And like all but one of those teams had the same quarterback. And so it was like the whole thing with Romo, with Dak, is dance with the one who brung you, right? Like, nobody thinks that Dak is or is going to be Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes. But Cowboys got a lot of good players. They got some holes. They got some questions. We don't know how long Jerry's going to be around, right? We know he wants to win one before. And we know it's going to take a whole hell of a lot of money to keep Dak Prescott.
And Dak is not – and see, Dak, I've had this fight too much because my dad's a Cowboys fan, and he has other friends that kind of go off exactly what you just said. He's your quarterback. He's your guy. Pay him and get this over with so you can move forward with everyone else. And every time I hear the numbers, and maybe I have to stop getting caught up in the numbers, I'm just like, he's not worth that much. He is very good. He's a little better than average. He's not the 15th best quarterback. He's top 12, whatever. To me, when you start paying that type of money, and maybe I have to change my scope of the mind and change with the salary cap and things of that nature. But when you start paying guys, to me, in any sport, in any job, in any business, when you start paying guys above their pay grade, he better be bringing something else to the table. And I start worrying about this too with Dak, where he was drafted, what he's become, quarterback of you just said it, he's quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. If you can play over 500 3 times out of the next 5 years, you're better than being Ohio State quarterback in Columbus. You have the whole state of Texas at your will to do whatever you want in Dallas. Look at Tony Romo, Aikman, Roger Staubach. I mean, if you've made a playoff game, won a playoff game with the Dallas Cowboys, you become a national treasure. So do you really need the last dime, Dak? And I don't like getting in guys' pockets. But to me, Dak has fit that situation very well, and they're making the situation between the team and player very odd and awkward. And they shouldn't do it because you just said that's their guy. That's like so you've made him your guy. You got to pay him your guy, but he ain't worth he's worth whatever they were willing to give him $100 million. It's like, really? You're not going to it's just that blows me away. The other thing that I will say about quarterbacks. Sorry, I went in that tangent about Dak. What happened today with Tennessee makes me just believe that Tom Brady's going back to New England. Am I wrong with that? Because I thought the best team for him to go to would be Tennessee, possibly, and going with a coach that he knows, an offense. A.J. Brown will be a star with him. He's got a decent tight end there. The run game would be awesome. The AFC South would be, he could work there. I just thought Tennessee was a decent place for Brady to go to. Now I'm just like, he's going back to New England.
Well, I've kind of always thought that way. And whether these documentary rumors are true or not, I mean, of course he likes the attention. And of course he's deserved free agency.
Wait. What's the documentary? I don't even know. What is it?
So Bill Simmons, about 3 weeks ago when the Edelman-Vrabel FaceTime thing came, apparently said that he's heard that this is all for a documentary and that he's never going anywhere. And then last week it came out that he's starting his own production company like LeBron has.
Really? Wow. Oh, man. I mean, these guys, this is where we're at in sports, though. You know, Dwayne Wade has his own, TV production. You know, he's doing his own thing with TNT and LeBron. This is our TV shows are reality TV shows now, you know?
Let me tell you this.
Dwayne Wade.
Before any of this happened, I had a story idea a couple of weeks ago, and I said to a coworker of mine in an email, hey, is there any chance you're going to be around the Lakers or you could get to Maverick? Is there any chance if I go forward with this idea, and it was kind of an out there idea, that you could get these guys in X time frame? And he wrote back and said, I will try, I promise you, but those guys, they have no reason to do anything for anybody else when they can make money on it. And I thought, I never looked at it that way, but I guess I did. I never had it on my screen that way, right?
Right, but it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. It makes sense. It makes complete sense. And I think that's why you see all these other guys doing it, because it worked. Like, they're in complete control. They make the money off of it. It's weird. Shout out to Dwayne Wade. He gets the before everything got the way it got. Did you see what he did on TV last week? I didn't see it, but I read about it, and I just chuckled. I was like, man, Dwayne, a real dad. He basically talked shit on his high school, on his coaches, on his son's team.
I did see that.
After the kid makes a game-winning shot, it's the best time of their life. They're on national TV, and Dwayne Wade went straight AAU coach dad that you talk about every year that's got cars and got a Instagram for his 12-year-old son because he knows how to do a crossover. And cussed out the coach basically on TV. Shout out to you, Dwayne, for being a real man, for being a real dad. I mean, I'm not a real man. But that was embarrassing, and you're bigger than that. But it just made me chuckle. So Brady's just playing us for a TV show, huh?
Well, at this point, I don't think anyone knows. By the time a lot of people listen to this, we might know. You know,
right.
You would think, although I guess I'm probably speaking at least a little out of school on this one. You would think that would be over quickly because if he has in his mind that he's going to somewhere else, he would go tomorrow, right?
Right. He ain't. Yeah, you don't need to try to date him.
But I guess I could be. I hate to say that. I hate to talk in absolutes because I don't know. You know,
we don't know.
No,
we don't know. But it could be. I mean, it could be. I don't know. We're in a different world. You know what's crazy? And I got to tell you, I don't even know how long we've been into this conversation. I got to check before I say this. 22 minutes. Wow. It's amazing because in talking football with you and having this conversation, there's no doubt. It's a weird thing. There's no doubt for you, like about the football season, and about free agency. Where when we start talking baseball, everything is so cloudy that my mind can't even think towards a game right now, and the baseball season starts before football.
Well, yeah, that's a good segue. And, I mean, obviously, let's talk about the sports side of this. This is bizarre. I stopped myself from saying this is sad, but you know what Selection Sunday is to me. It's a top 5 day on my calendar. Right?
No doubt. It is sad. No, but this is a sad situation.
I want my fucking basketball!
Right. I mean, We don't do the pulpit here. But if this doesn't speak to a lot of us to slow down and appreciate family, appreciate the good things that we have, taking sports away from people like us will open your eyes to all the other things that are going on around you.
Yeah, but you can also love your family and 3 days from now really wish there was a damn basketball game.
Hell yeah. That's completely natural. Absolutely. You're right. Like, this is going to be a battle, y'all. Y'all going to find out if you really like the people around you or if you got good people around you, because you're about to spend a lot of time with them. That's why I made my wife get a lot of alcohol today. Like, literally, she texted. She was like, because we didn't get home till last night, and that's the whole thing, and we weren't supposed to be home for another week. And as you guys all know, and you guys know my schedule, which is scary.
Well, why don't you start there?
Go ahead.
Incorporate the Indians as a whole in it, but why don't you take people through, I guess 72 more now. Now it becomes clear that spring training is over. You have a place in Arizona. You were supposed to be here a certain day. Your family was supposed to fly home a certain day, right? And then for a couple days, I didn't know where you were. So why don't you take everybody through that?
Yeah, it's been one of the. For everybody's got their story. This is mine. I'm not asking for. This is just my story. I need. We through it. The crazy thing, and as I told my father this last night, and my father-in-law, is that when you do our job and you ask questions and you're a reporter and you're just trying to put a story together so you can do whatever part of your job is, because it is a job. We all have, there's parts of the job that I have to do daily when I'm there. That it started hitting me probably like as news start changing. Like, you would ask questions and then the coronavirus would come up, or somebody would chuckle and somebody would say to me, "Wash your ass." Like, I'd be like, "Oh, you listen to the podcast, thanks." And then we had there's a story I want to tell, but I don't like teasing like that. But there's a story that I want to tell, but I don't know if I can tell it yet. There were signs. Remember when you asked me on the podcast, and I was like, "Hey, the team's having a meeting about it to kind of tell people about it," and it became one of those things where it was like, have a meeting about it, and everybody was like, yeah, and kind of not chuckled. Everybody was washing their hands more. There were more stations to keep your hands clean, and we respected that. But naturally, if you saw somebody you knew or saw, like I did it too, you see somebody, you still shook their hand. You're like, yeah, they said that in the meeting, but we still, and you kept going. And then finally, the night when Rudy Gobert gets it, and I think didn't Tom Hanks got it right beforehand, everything started running forward, because you just, as you've talked around guys, and the NBA is like at this dire time period with what's going on, and then they cap off everything, and you start reading Twitter and social media, and you texting with friends, and they're at arenas, and you're at baseball fields, and as you hear in the news, I got to tell you, Zach, it was the craziest thing. Like, at first hearing people be like, we're going to do basketball games with no fans. We're going to do this with no fans. Well, the day that they were saying that, I was sitting at a ballpark with fans. That was a baseball park. It was, you just start questioning yourself. If it's that bad, why are we even doing this? And then not only was I thinking that, but players were having that same thought. Kind of like, well, if it's that bad, but none of us took it that serious. So that after the Rudy Gobert thing, and I'm shortening it, and there's stories within stories here. But after the Gobert day and the NBA shutting things down, I remember looking at my wife, and I'm like, all right. I go, we may not have baseball for a while. And at the time, it was like 8:30 Pacific time. My nephew had been with us, who I love and had a great time with. And it's crazy because we were joking about the night when I took him to the airport to go back home to Texas. And so as this was going on, you kind of text a friend. I text you guys. And I said to my wife, baseball ain't starting. I was like, it's done. I was like, if this is happening in the NBA, same thing's gonna happen here. And it was crazy. It was eerie to wake up the next morning, and I took a shower. I was getting ready for work. I'm hanging out with my kids, and Jen's like, "So you got nobody said anything?" And I was like, "Nope, normal day." And you get in the car, and I'm only 5 minutes from the park. And I get in the car, and I'm listening to the radio or listening. And finally, I just turned on music instead, because it was too much. I was just but still, everything just made you think. It was just eerie. Everything was going slower, it felt like. And I got to the park, or the facility, and I walked in with a couple players that will remain nameless, and they were like, "We got to cancel this shit. What are we doing? They just canceled soccer. They canceled this." And I'm kind of like, yeah. And then everything happened 100 miles an hour. Because we were there, and at one time we talked we talked to Tito before it happened. And I remember asking questions to Tito, and it was like hollow. And I told him, I was like, this is hollow. I can't even finish questions. I go, are you really even playing baseball? But it was weird because it rained, and it never rains in Arizona. Never. And the two rainouts, they had to rain out the first spring training game, and then there was 2 rainouts in a row this week. And Zach, I got to tell you, it's the craziest, most eerie thing, a part of this story. There were 3 games rained out in spring training this year, and there were 2 of them were the 2 last days there. So I remember going in that day, and it was like, all right, MLB hasn't shut down the season. And as soon as we walk in at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, they're like, hey, our game's banged because of rain. And I remember chuckling and being like, I was like, games never get banged at 9:30 in the morning. Like never get canceled that early. And so like at 10 o'clock, I'll never forget Mandy Bell, who works for MLB.com. She's got colleagues that are in Florida, in Grapefruit League. And she's like, we're supposed to be writing stories today, but they're playing games in Florida. And I thought that was another weird thing about what day was that? Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday night was Rudy Gobert.
So Thursday. So this is Thursday.
Thursday afternoon is when all the college games started to get canned. They played the one half. Yeah, that was it.
Yes, but I'm 3 hours behind you. But only the Big East did that, I believe. Because we had, and that's the other thing. We got TVs on, so you see like ESPN's got a team. Florida State's running out, and I'm like, is Florida State really about to play? Like how many of us? I was like, really? And I didn't have FS1 on where the Big East game was going on, but then you see a tweet, Big East is playing. And I'm like, what? It'll be a day I always remember. And really the chaos after, and just the chaos of just trying to get home. We got home. Like I said, we were supposed to be there till next Sunday. My initial thought, because once everything was canceled, everyone just start trying to find out how soon they can get home because they want to go see their families.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the opposite. I brought my family just out there, and I'm freaking and I'm still freaking to this moment, to be honest. And this is just what's weighed on my head, for better or worse. As for me, it sucks because my family builds their spring around my schedule. Really, all my fans, anybody that's close to me, you build your schedule around my schedule because that's how it works. But my father, my parents, they come out every year. They come out every year for spring training for a certain amount of time. My in-laws, my kids, my sisters, if they want to see me, my aunt, my niece, a lot of my family comes with me or visits me in Arizona, or we see each other in Arizona, because that's the one time where I'm going to be somewhere for a month. And instantly, when all this freaking out starts, and we're all freaking out to a certain extent, one way or the other, if you're not, you just don't have, red doesn't pump through your veins. I just started thinking, damn, how, I got all my family mixed up in this shit going back and forth. And I got my 2 kids now with me, and my wife's here with me. She's trying to run a business. And at first, I'm like, shit, we'll just stay in Arizona till we got to leave this house that's rented till April 1st. And then I got back home, and I looked at my kids, I looked at my wife, and I was like, fuck, I got to get home. I got to get them back, I got to get us back to where we're back to home. But at the time, flights are weird. To the point where I thought about driving from Arizona. And do you know what it would have been like trying to drive with Isabella and AJ and myself and Jen for 2 days, 3 days to get home from Arizona?
Yeah, it's a lot of Sesame Street songs.
Yeah, buddy. Then I would be spoiling them. You want to talk about that? So I just been through all of that, and somehow we figured out a way, and we're back home. I don't know when we're gonna play. I've heard Memorial Day weekend was what somebody was talking about 3 days ago.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that. We'll save this for another podcast and when we know more. But right now, I think you can look and say, okay, baseball could realistically have a 100-ish game season. The NBA, I don't know. The NFL, it looks like the draft is off, or at least the public part of it is off, and at least the first part of off-season programs are off. Right now, there's nothing going on. All the college spring sports are canceled. All recruiting is canceled. It's probably too early to even speculate. You would imagine somewhere some smart person is drawing up a 106 or 84 game baseball schedule, right?
You would think so, yes, for sure.
But it's probably too early.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but on a more personal level, as you said, and again, we don't benefit from this. If you've listened to this podcast, we say that 2 things are undefeated, and we stand by those 2 things. Doctors and science are pretty darn close. Okay? If you don't feel a little bit of angst, you're not human. Well, however you feel, however it's affected you, however it will affect you over the next few days, I don't know. We prefer to sit here and say, I could cry because there's no college basketball on. Or this is really weird. I guess from a podcast standpoint, I don't know that we will or won't be able to actually get together, but we'll surely be able to have a more regular schedule. Get some guests on, do some different things, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
I mean, for us, listen.
I'm going to work.
For guys,
this is what we do.
For guys covering 4 and 5 hours a day in the radio business, my prayers are with you. Really. It's hard enough when there's stuff going on and the proof's in the pudding there.
I get what you're saying, but I got to say for my career, this is when my best work has happened. Like, if you're good at it, and I'm not talking shit. If you're good at this, and you're good at, and I've said this to you often, and when just you and I talk, I don't know if we do this to entertain people or not. We really mean, we've always had fun conversations, and we enjoy doing this, and it's a good way to get it out. To me, once people are into you and into you talking, you can talk about anything and engage people. And I think a lot of us, this is something I hope other people that do this are listening and truly believe. If you're good at it, you can talk about anything for 2-3 hours or an hour, 30 minutes, and be entertaining. So it's like this is fine because there's more to us than just talking about the game that happened 2 days ago.
Sure.
Sometimes your best conversations, the best things you write, are about something that moves you, something that a memory that moves you, a game from 20 years ago. To me, this is the time for us to get on top of our game. For us, this is the time where we don't have to talk about the fucking backup linebacker and Sean Thompson's jokes. Like we got those down. We got the Alex Mack shit down.
I'll say this. I could be wrong, but speaking of backup linebackers, the NFL league year is going to be a great distraction for those of us who feel cooped up or for those of us who are on Twitter come hell or high water or disease, right?
Right.
But if you're a Browns fan and you're fired up, and this week they signed 2 white linebackers from Princeton and Vanderbilt. Oh, boy.
That's going to make you want to fight. And that's going to make you want to fight.
So I don't know how it's going to go. This front office has no track record, and this is completely different than the total blow-up of 16. But I would just say temper your expectations. And look, historically, free agency is fool's gold. It's paying A money for B players. There's risk involved. And historically, the teams that do it well are the long-established teams that can scout players through their flaws and for specific needs and fits more than just trying to get guys. So we'll see. And in that regard, it might well be prudent for the Browns to go very, very carefully into this pool. And we don't know. I mean, that's also the thing with free agency. No matter who you are and what you want, you can never just have a plan A or even a plan B because guys get taken off the market, mystery suitors pull up, guys don't want you, guys demand $2 million out of you, all of that. But the best players rarely actually hit the market. So you can have all the pitches ready, and then this is just so weird. Not that guys generally take visits anyway, at least the A-listers, because they know from the combine, teams pass the interest along. Wink, wink, nod, nod, and the agent passes the number back along, and they know right then and there whether they're doing that dance or not, right? But
well, that's what I'm going to say. Let's keep it real. You know what this period of time is going to do? Because it's going to happen in the baseball draft as well. Because think about it, and that's just a whole other story that we got to talk about because it sucks what's happening to high school kids and college kids at the end of their careers. But I think this cuts the shit, Zach. Like you just said, cut the dance. Like I heard Michael Jordan. I was watching an old Michael Jordan clip last night, and I couldn't go to sleep. And it was at the end of his career. They were in Paris. It was at the end of his career in my eyes when he was with the Bulls. That Wizard stuff don't count. I'm old enough I can say that shit. Leave me alone. And he was basically the Chicago Bulls and everything that they do. We can talk about having this great chemistry as an organization because when in Game 5 when Charles Barkley's coming at me or Karl Malone's coming at me, it ain't no organization. It's the fucking players. But, just saying, he goes, what we're built on is the players. So, and it made me think, because I was reading free agency off of that, for all the teams that talk about, and look, the Patriots have the Patriot way. That's a real thing. But for all these teams to try to say they want to sit and wine and dine a guy and talk about, what they want, and you want a guy that's good in the organization, in the environment and everything else, I get that. But let's cut the shit. You're only bringing a guy in if you think he can help you win games. So that's exactly what they should be doing in free agency, and that's what's going to happen in free agency. It's not going to be whining and dining and buying fur coats for the dude's wife. That's happened a couple of times. Look it up, kids. Reggie White, Andre Rison. It's just going to be straight to the point. I want you to be my linebacker. Yes, no. And the guy's going to probably want the most money. Of course, we don't get great stories like we did from who was the Jets? Who was the Ravens? Bart Scott?
Yeah, Bart Scott.
Was it Bart Scott that claimed he was in the Browns bathroom?
Yeah, taking calls from his teammates saying, get out of there.
Yeah, begging Ozzie to bring him back.
Well, look, that's right then and there. I mean, it's 15 years ago now, but the A-list free agent was Gary Baxter.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you're right. It does. The Browns are, you know what? To me, you know how free agency works? And what you said is very good, but you know how free agency works in the NFL? And really in any sport. When you have one need and you have the perfect guy to fit the need.
Correct.
Right? Like if you just need a left tackle and the best left tackles out there, and you get the best left tackle, it'll work.
Right.
But when you have multiple holes, and I think the Browns do, I don't even think the Browns know who they are. That's the other thing that I find hard for any organization. I'll let you go. When you're new, and I'm giving Andrew Berry's Andrew Berry. I'm too old, been to this too many times to judge him after he has done nothing. But as Andrew Berry's here, yeah, he knows the team, but do you know the team, and do you really know what? And that's where the problems happen, I think. To me, being quiet the first year of free agency, when your first year there, I don't see anything wrong with that. I really don't.
No, well, telling the Gary Baxter thing made me think of this. The next year, 2000, and I know this is a long time ago, but this holds true. The A-list free agent was Charles Bentley, who never played a snap.
Yeah.
The B-list free agent was Kevin Schaefer, who was so bad he allowed you to get Joe Thomas the next year.
Yeah. Had to play right back.
The C-list free agent was Joe Juravicius, who lit it up in the only good year you've had in a long, long time, and then got the staff and never played again. So
then almost got shot in his own home when he got robbed.
Yeah.
Was that the Zassadil year, or was that the
Z was the first year, 2005. Yeah.
But Z was a part. I thought he came with somebody else. I could be wrong.
No, that was when he hit free agency after his fourth year, and then Phil Savage brought him over. They knew that was one of those they knew. You know, the Ravens weren't going to pay him, and you know, he wanted to come home to Cleveland. The Browns had the money, obviously.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
No, just to follow up on what we both said, really. In pro sports, talent acquisition is king. It's just NFL free agency has shown you that it's generally a lot more bluster than it is results, right? In the NBA, it's different.
You're right.
But across all sports right now, where scouts aren't on the road and NBA GMs aren't consumed with games going on right now or their team's winning a championship, like they're going to really dive into this year's draft class and free agent class. And the smart teams, the established teams, are eventually going to benefit because they've done the work and they can say, this is who this guy is. But also, ultimately, so many times it's so important to say, this is who he isn't, but what he is what we need. Right?
Right. You know, yeah. I think a lot of teams do what you just said in all pro sports. They look at what he isn't. Well, yeah, but they look at what he isn't more than they look at what he is. Mm-hmm. And I think from fan standpoint, from anyone that watches and enjoys, I think we just look at what a guy is. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, but the more football people, baseball, basketball, like scouts and coaches you talk to, they can tell you I don't want to say negatives because I don't want this to be negative, but they can tell you what a guy, like the great coaches can tell you. Bill Belichick's great at getting guys to do one thing really well, right?
Right.
Because he knows, okay, this guy doesn't do this well or he doesn't do this well, but he does this so well that if I just keep him in this place and ask him only to do this, my team will be successful. That's what great teams can do. I think that is I love that because, I mean, I know in baseball, it's been cool for me in baseball to kind of hear the same thing, where you fall where the average us sees a guy for 30 games, and we're like, man, this guy's gonna be rookie of the year. He's gonna be one of the best players ever. And all you got to do is talk to like two coaches that know him, and I go, yeah, he does this well, but you know, he's not good on the inside pitch, and he's slow on this, or he's bad going to his backhand. All things I never noticed. Yeah. And then the next time you watch him, that player has all those issues, but you never, so there's something to having an eye towards yeah, this guy's really good, but he's not good at doing this and being able to place it with your team.
Look, if anything, the Browns could be at a disadvantage because they have a new front office and they really only had the combine to meet these guys face to face, whereas other teams were working and have set needs. However, the work is done, right? Your scouts scout these guys. These kids nowadays are public recruits from the time they're 15, 16.
Right.
Their background is easier than ever to find. I mean, Lynn Bowden, for example, who everybody knew was coming out. I mean, scouts are hitting me up to get his high school coach's information back in September and October. Getting passwords for the Athletics so they can read the story on Lynn Bowden's crazy background in Youngstown. Like, the good teams are doing the work, right? The work is done.
Right.
It's
the hay is in the barn, as Coach McCoy would say.
Yeah. It's this is a really, really interesting time for us all.
Did you really put money down on Dayton?
That was a real screenshot. October 21st.
You usually tell me secrets like that. I think the first time I saw that. Why'd you like? Because I even brought Dayton up to you one time, bullshitting, and you didn't even put that in there.
I wasn't gonna jinx it, man.
But that's something you should have bragged about because you were on it. You were on that. You were on Dayton.
Unless it wins, it pays $0, so there ain't shit to brag about till it wins.
True that. On a real note, what is going to happen to Vegas?
Yeah,
seriously.
Shout out to the athletes who got out in front, the Kevin Loves and the Zions.
Yes.
There are so many layers to this, from the arena workers to the Vegas aspect of it to freelance guys. When you watch TV and you see smiling Andre Knott and his beautiful friends, those guys are full-time employees. I mean, I'm not going to speak for the Indians crew, but most crews you see on most of these games are freelancers, right?
Right.
There are part-time employees that work for teams, and when there's no games, they're the first ones to go.
No
they
money.
don't work, period.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are so many layers to this. Like, the NBA, if they can get
run
back, like, these guys got a chance to get healthy, right? The NFL, if they can't have an off-season program, like, who does that really benefit? Who's that really a detriment to,
The good teams, the bad teams.
Yeah.
The rich get richer in that situation because the veterans are going to take care of themselves. Young teams that are trying to find themselves need every moment, every OTA, every meeting, every dinner with the guy that's going to line up next to them. I think it's important. I think for the teams that are established already, for the Kansas City Chiefs, this is great for them. They need a little bit more of a rest, right? Like they can use a couple more weeks. This whole thing is the whole thing is odd, man. It really is. In every sport, in every situation, it is like the college basketball thing. I'll admit. It was one of my top 3 things every year, up to about 6 years ago when I started doing baseball. And it still was important when you do baseball, but it's just different when you're on the West Coast and games are literally on at 9. I mean, you get into it, but it's different. You're following the baseball team and you're getting ready. I just got too much shit going on at that time. It's like so many stuff that I'm almost the busiest those last 2 weeks of spring training usually, and that's when the tournament starts. So it's a nice background thing. And you catch a couple games and fall asleep to a couple games. But it is weird because I'm home right now, and I know today was cool, and it was almost a tease, when you turn those. I think CBS had the Big Ten game from 17 or whatever, or 19 or whatever, and you start watching for a minute, and you're like, oh, I know what happens here.
Hey, right behind me right now is the Dayton, Kansas Maui Invitational Championship game in overtime. I mean, I want to fucking throw up.
Right. Well, you bring that up. All right, and I can tell you this. TV wise, what do you want to watch? Because that's the I don't know what STO is going to do over the next month and a half, 2 months. I don't know. Radio wise, they're just going to tell people, they'll jabroni you into just doing shows and not, give it no direction. But in TV, I've had people say, we want to see the 22 game win streak. I think that's a great idea. But to do that, they got to get somebody in there to produce and put it together. And I know it's work, but I think we're going to have to see the creativity of what is ESPN going to look like in a month and a half? What's the Athletic going to look like in a month? You're going to be fine, but what are we going to be reading about? Like I said, I think this is going to bring the best out of the people that are good, but it's going to expose people that don't have the creative side. And I'm just spitballing right now.
Yeah, no, hey, without going into detail, we obviously had meetings at the Athletic like every company in America's had, and then one of them was, okay, guys, there's no such thing as a bad idea. Throw it out there. Like, we don't know how
Right.
much time we're going to have to fill, but me, for example, Dre, this is just from my everyday job part of the year, going to pro days and going to the meetings.
Right.
And that's what I love. Well, I mean, I've
Right.
spent hours canceling flights and stuff,
Yeah.
That's not only an edge that I think that I get or have, or, that's not only access for our readers, but that's just what I love to do. That's what I love about the part of the job, and,
Right.
and honestly, that puts it on teams too. So anyway, as we start to wrap this up, I just want to say, guys, be kind to one another, first of all, and check on your elderly neighbors and people who might need it. But from this standpoint, we understand the opportunity here, starting whether you think that we're any good or not, but just starting with the fact that I'm going to know where Andre is, and we're going to know that we're not on different time zones or working on different schedules for most days.
Right.
So,
or really hungover.
well, we might be that. But honestly, we want your feedback. I guaranteed as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, there's going to be bad Twitter tournaments. There's going to be people bringing their awful takes to Twitter because they're frustrated, because they're pissed off, because they're trying to make it funny. And we've already seen that in the first 2 days, right?
Yeah.
But what we can lay out here and do and talk about and argue about, or who we can try to have, and again, try. If you haven't heard us talk about it before, for us to have guests, we have to be together with few exceptions. And so we don't know how feasible that is or isn't going to be. And then it's always better when the guest is actually in the room. And right now we could say that's probably going to be tough. But if there's somebody that you've wanted us to have on, if there's some crazy thing you've wanted us to revisit, if we need to go fantasy fast food, name as many 90s college football players as you can, a loser has to drink, whatever you want us to do, this is the time, right? There's no as was said in The Athletic Idea, we're going to start with the premise that there's no such thing as a bad idea, and then we'll figure it out from there.
For sure. Absolutely. I saw this from Joe Madden on Wednesday night. The manager of the Chicago, or used to be the Chicago Cubs, Van Nuys. And he kind of said, hey, whatever happens here, he goes, maybe we need a month off from all this and take time out and kind of reassess where we are. And I remember I read that, and I kind of on one hand, it gave me the chills. That was the first notion of, we're about to be done. They're like, shit. And then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? That's probably true. It's probably a good time to reset. I mean, we're in it's a weird year, weird times. Everybody has what they believe in, or everybody has their faith that gets them through. Some of it see it in the can, some of it see it in the Bible. Some of them see it at their local high school basketball game. It's nothing wrong with reassessing. It's nothing wrong with kind of resetting who you are, where you're at. And I'm, you know what? Now that I'm back home, we'll check on the people around us, take care. I want to be close to my parents. I got a grandmother that's older. And times like this, you realize that, maybe, checking up on them one more time, 2 more times, you better take advantage of it, because there's no guarantee that opportunity is always going to be there. And I got to tell you, that was one of the things that ran through my mind when I was in Arizona, kind of in my mindset of, because at first I was like, we'll have, me and the kids will have a good time. Then you start thinking about all the people that you just would rather be close to and rather be at it if something really bad is happening. So I'm thrilled to be home. I don't have a lot of time. So give us those ideas.
I'm glad you mentioned the basketball thing, because, and again, I'm not trying to play CDC or anyone else, but I've seen this exact scenario play out. And this is what, as soon as this thing kind of started to become prevalent. And to tell you guys the truth, I'm glad you mentioned the Rudy thing as the landmark, because I think a lot of people think it is, right? That's when everything turned. Right. Nothing was canceled until then. That night, I was actually at a high school tournament game because they had barred fans. And I thought, well, how weird. So it turned out they really didn't bar that many fans. There was still an atmosphere.
Right.
Well, anyway, I went from there out to freaking Atwater, if you know where that is, because school that it was playing there for the first time in 30-some years wasn't allowed to bring but 100 people. And they were having a gathering, even though the government had said no. The governor had said no gatherings. And so, just talking with my bosses and my editors, we were like, we don't know if there's a story here. Let's go get it. Let's go try. Well, Atwater's so long. I'm driving home, And I was like, stopped. I didn't even need gas, but I stopped to stretch myself out. It was dark. I was tired, right? And I got on Twitter buying caffeine at a BP somewhere off the highway. And it was like, okay, this just changed everything. But Dre, I have seen this exact scenario, right? Guy walks into a basketball game, daps up a couple people, stands there waiting to see where he's going to sit, right? Sweaty ass, dirty ass ball bounces over. Yeah. He picks it up, throws it back to the ref, goes to a seat, daps up 3 more people, dives in, box of popcorn, right?
Yeah.
Watches the game, plays with his phone, daps up 2 more people. Now the game's over, and it's just a hug fest. Everybody, the guys that just played, the guys that just refed, us across the way, the little kids. It's fucking disgusting. Right?
It is, but that's our world. Okay, I'm glad you said that. It is, and you're so right. I caught myself. We all were laughing. There's an old ESPN commercial where I believe it was Robinson Cano when he was at the Yankees. And he kind of has a hand slap for everybody. And they're like, we can't understand why everybody has a cold. And he's like walking through and he's got a handshake, spitting in his hand, spitting in another guy's hand. And like everybody's laughing. That is so much of our society. And I think it's cool that we show love how we show love. Yeah. But the real assessment of all of this is stop being so goddamn dirty. All of us.
Yeah.
Wipe your ass. Wash your hands. Seriously, we all do it. I've caught myself and thought about things I've done or said or touched. You're so right. Think about it. Because going on a plane, we had wipes for wiping all this shit down. And I'm thinking to myself, do you know how many flights I've taken in the last 5 years where I didn't wipe a goddamn thing?
Yeah.
And, and touch this or did this or did that, or you're on your phone, you wipe it on your face, you put your money there, you're biting the nail, and that's been all over all the kinds of other shit. You've been on your phone typing, you've been on your iPad, you've been on this, and then you bite your fingers, or you lick some chocolate, or lick some nacho cheese off of it. If you really eat nachos, you got to lick that little.
When you go to a basketball game, you go right for the nachos.
Yeah, I do. So my point to all of this is, if we learn anything through this, there is nothing wrong with bringing some wipes with you, gentlemen. Wipe your hands off and stop giving every goddamn germ that you have to the next person. We all need to do it. Put some breath, have a breath mint, but also bring something and keep your hands clean and like some hand sanitizer. It's funny. I make fun of my wife because she lets the kids get book bags that they want. My daughter's is all sparkly and has all these it's cool. My son's got Paw Patrol, but the one main thing that she has on them, and I made fun of her when she first got them. And she's got these little things of hand sanitizer that hangs from the bottom of their backpacks. And when she first got the first time I got it, I was like, hey man, you making my kid look like a nerd coming in with hand sanitizer. I was like, he's a real man. He don't need no hand sanitizer on his shit. And then the other night we were looking around and cause my wife is very about the hand sanitizer and all that type of stuff. Anyways, and she's like, I can't find my hand sanitizer. And we were talking with another friend, and we were in Arizona, and I was like, and we literally both said, I was like, I'm sure the hand sanitizer is here, but I'm sure our daughter's heard us so much talk about it that she's probably hoarded it and put it in her own backpack out in Arizona. And then I go, well, shit, there's hand sanitizer that hangs from her backpack. I go, don't you remember? And we both start cracking up that as we're all freaking out about all this cleanliness and all these other things, you appreciate the thought process that she had ahead of time of put hand sanitizer on your bag so you always have it. Keep your hands clean. And it should be a lesson to all of us. Keep your hands clean because it makes a difference, obviously. Wash your ass. Wash your hands.
All right. We want ideas. We will be back in a couple days because we'll need something to do. Quite frankly, there probably will be some Browns news to talk about. You might have heard him on the podcast with us 2 years ago. You've certainly seen us both tweet about him. Maybe you saw Andre's Fox 8 package last year. I was working on a hunch. I told Dre to do this before win number 400. I thought this would be it. Jim Francis finally hung up the whistle. 49 years as a head coach. A state record 401 victories. He's one of a kind, and we have to salute him on our way out.
Yeah, we absolutely do. I appreciate being friends with you and having the chance to get to know him the way that I've got to know him over the last 3-4 years. Always knew about him. Always, he was a local Akron legend. One of those names you hear about when you hear your dads or uncles talking about, football teams and football programs. You just don't get a lot of those in life in any city that you grow up or state that you grow up in. You just appreciate a guy like that because And I keep saying this, as we get older, you start looking around and realizing the true treasures that we have in front of us. And sometimes it stinks when we don't truly appreciate those legends and these treasures that we have next to us. And I'm glad I got to know him. He's one of those guys that'll be in the record book. He's one of those guys that people will be talking about 30, 40, 50 years from now in some Massillon bar off to the side where they're supposed to be going to the 220th Massillon McKinley game.
Lord, you can have baseball. Laugh. Don't take Massillon McKinley away from me.
Honestly,
especially not an even year when it's at Massillon and it's the fucking Super Bowl people watching. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do that to me. You got till November. I need to just laugh. Thank you guys. We appreciate you guys. Let's all get together somehow, some way. Say konnichiwa to the coronavirus. We'll be back soon because we ain't got shit to do.
AmericanFireworks.com, always open. Hey, guys, thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for tweeting all this. I don't know. I hope we said something, I don't know. Dre, it's not often I'm at a loss for words, right?
Neither am I. Hey, shout out to your brother's basketball team. Shout out to the Mount Union basketball team. Shout out to the St. Vincent St. Mary baseball team and the basketball team. But Coach Foreman, I'm thinking about your kids. Since I ain't got nothing better to do, maybe I'll throw them batting practice and say I don't know you.
Yeah. There's strict rules, no gatherings at schools. Man.
I know.
It's crazy.
But like the coaches, my father-in-law is a tennis coach. I won't say where. He's not the head coach, but he was telling me last night that they can't even put together, they can't even tell the kids put something together if they want. It's just.
Yeah.
I know rules are rules, and I know people take advantage of them, but in certain times, shouldn't we just kind of be realistic in situations like this? I mean, you got Sonny out here tweeting like he's Nick Camino, but he also he put a tweet out telling everybody,
when Sonny tweeted about Outback Steakhouse being closed, I swear I almost shit my pants.
Hey, man, I got to tell y'all something. And I purposely did this because we're going to have other shit to talk about down the road. I've stayed away from what I've read on social media. This, to me, less is more right now. That's my Twitter rule. Less is more. Think about it. If you don't really know exactly what you're talking about and where you're doing and how it can affect somebody, shut the fuck up.
God's honest truth. I know of some organizations of 9 and 10-year-old baseball teams still trying to have indoor practice.
Gotta get that edge.
We leave you with a tweet from our friend Hunkura 6 seconds ago as I opened Twitter as I thought we were closing this podcast. And it says, CDC says you can't have a gathering of 50 people, but they never said you can't have a gathering of 50 draft picks. Hashtag trade down. Hashtag addicted. That, my friends, is a long-time listener. We hope you'll become one if you already aren't. Konnichiwa. We'll talk to you soon.